It is viewers like you that make videos like this possible. Please support MickeyMousePark.com.
Behind the gates of Frontierland is the inspirational America of the past century. Here is the treasure of our native folklore, the songs, tales, and legends of the big men who built the land.
We started construction on a 105-foot American riverboat, the sternwheeler Mark Twain. Since the deck slopes from one end to the other, each piece of wood had to be individually cut and fitted. To make sure it was completely authentic, we called in as supervisor a Mississippi riverboat captain who had spent a lifetime running just such a boat. Constructing such a large boat inside a building 50 miles from water caused a lot of raised eyebrows. But unlike the fellow who built a boat in his basement and couldn't get it out, we had it.
The Mark Twain's illustrious history began with the steel hull built in shipyards in nearby Long Beach. Meanwhile, the wooden decks and ornate superstructure were constructed at Disney Studios in Burbank, trucked down to Anaheim, and then assembled inside the park. The twin smokestack Mark Twain is an authentic-looking replica of the larger sternwheelers that plied the Mississippi in the 19th century. It is architecturally imperfect. Some parts were built proportionally to a smaller scale than other parts in accordance with the specific safety and maritime needs at Disneyland. Disneyland Publicity Department claimed that this was the first paddle wheeler built in the United States in 50 years. The boat weighs 150 tons and designed to carry 390 passengers. Mark Twain required a C ticket in 1955, a D ticket in 1956 to 1957, an E ticket in 1959.
Though built in 5/8 scale, Walt wanted the Mark Twain to be precise in its execution. It was to be 105 feet long, 28 feet high, and it would end up weighing 150 tons. When the upper decks were brought down from the studio and the hull was brought up from Long Beach, the entire craft was constructed like a huge jigsaw puzzle in Fowler's Harbor after being lifted over the berm surrounding the park. The gorgeous railings and filigreed woodwork were crafted in the mill inside the Opera House.
Nearly every description of the Mark Twain includes the words stately and majestic. The graceful white ship certainly is both. As the first large paddle wheeler built in America since the early 20th century, it's also historic at 105 feet long and 150 tons. It is Disneyland's single most imposing watercraft. Walt Disney wanted a resplendent riverboat in his park long before Disneyland was built. Early concept drawings always included something that looked like the Mark Twain circling what appeared to be the rivers of America. Tellingly, when the ship's landing was built, it was placed in a highly visible location at the end of the main Frontierland walkway, so the guests would be able to see the dock and dazzling Mark Twain from the hub. This tempting vision drew many a newcomer deep into the wild frontier. The ship can hold over 350 passengers, though when it debuted there was no official loading capacity. Thus there are old tales of cast members accidentally overloading the boat until it almost capsized when all the guests shifted to one side to view the riverbank. On July 13, 1955, the Mark Twain made its prominent trial voyage at a party thrown by Walt Disney and his wife to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary. 4 days later, actress Irene Dunne christened the ship during televised opening day ceremonies. From then on, it has endured as one of Disneyland's iconic attractions. Strangely, in its first 3 decades, the Mark Twain swung back and forth between a C, D, and even briefly an E ticket attraction. The views have also changed dramatically over the decades, but the lovely, serene trip hasn't varied significantly. Powered by steam and propelled by its stern paddle wheel, the ship travels on a submerged track around, appropriately enough, the island named after one of Mark Twain's greatest characters, Tom Sawyer. On its 12 to 14-minute journey, the ship travels about half a mile and takes in panoramic views of island wilderness and attractions in Frontierland, New Orleans Square, Critter Country, auto-animatronic animals, and Mike Fink keelboats are among the additional sights. Naturally, this Mark Twain has often been a star attraction for special events. In its 50-plus years and 260,000-plus miles, the ship has been specially decorated for holidays, paraded jazz combos in front of the shoreline guests, and been incorporated into Fantasmic. From Walt Disneyland Dictionary 1968, Mark Twain is the atmospheric paddle wheel steamboat that is patterned after the Queens of the River which once plied the Mississippi. A triple-decker, complete with plush captain's quarters, wheelhouse, and lounges, it is powered by steam. Authentic Dixieland music is played on her decks during moonlight cruises around Tom Sawyer Island on the rivers of America. During the summer months, guests can enjoy sternwheeler mint juleps. From Steve Birnbaum brings you the best of Disneyland 1982, one of the original Disneyland attractions and the first paddle wheeler built in the United States in a half a century. This 150-ton, 105-foot-long, 5/8 scale vessel with its 9-ton paddle wheel circumnavigates Tom Sawyer Island. It passes by Riverboat Terrace, the Royal Street Veranda, the docks for the Mike Fink keelboats, and the Tom Sawyer Island rafts, Piney Bear Country, and takes in a waterfall and an abandoned railroad track, which old Disneyland hands will remember as part of the mine train through Nature's Wonderland attraction, lately superseded by Big Thunder Mountain. Plus moose, elk, Indians, the burning cabin of a slain settler, and the lovely dense woods full of the alders, cottonwoods, maples, and willows that might have been found along the Missouri frontier more than a century ago. Wild European iris and southern rose mallows, some with blooms 8 inches across, line the shores, and ducks can be seen preening themselves and chasing each other through the water along the way. All in all, the ride is more pleasant than thrilling, but it does provide a respite from the crowds on a busy day, especially when the jazz miners are aboard to liven things up with their peppy brand of Dixieland jazz. And if you manage to get one of the few chairs on the bow, the Mark Twain offers a golden opportunity to put your feet up. The ducks are real. The other animals come to Disneyland thanks in part to the efforts of Bob Matty, who also helped design the creatures that haunt the Jungle River in Adventureland. The flag that flies atop the stern of the Mark Twain has 34 stars and 13 stripes, a design that dates from the mid-19th century. Flags on the Mark Twain dock. It's always fun to pick out the 8 flags that fly above this Frontierland landing. The John Cabot flag, the first flown over the American mainland, as the constant flag brought settlers to Jamestown in 1607, and the Mayflower transported the Pilgrims to Plymouth 13 years later. There is the Red Cross of St. George on a white field. The King's Colors flag, the one that flew over the colonies for over a century, superimposes England's Red Cross of St. George on Scotland's White Cross of St. Andrew on a blue background. The Continental flag, carried at the Battle of Bunker Hill, is red with a green pine tree on a white field in the upper corner. The Pine Tree flag, carried by the American Navy when it amounted to a mere 6 ships, bears a green pine tree and the words, "An Appeal to Heaven," in black on a white field. The Grand Union flag, which General Washington raised at Cambridge in 1776, has 13 stripes, and in the upper corner the Red Cross of St. George and the White Cross of St. Andrew on a blue field. The Betsy Ross flag, adopted by the Continental Congress in 1777, has the same 13 red and white stripes, but in the upper corner. Representing the new constellation of states rising in the sky, a circle of 13 stars shines on a blue field. The Star-Spangled Banner, the flag that suggests the words of the national anthem to Francis Scott Key at Fort McHenry in 1814, has 15 stars and 15 stripes. And finally there's Old Glory, with its 13 red and white stripes and 24 stars, adopted in 1818. It was named in 1831 by
Passengers aboard. Secure all cargo. Engine room, stand by. Cast off bow line. Engine room, full steam ahead. Greetings, folks. This is your pilot speaking from the wheelhouse. Welcome aboard the Mark Twain, Queen of the riverboats. Still our most important means of transportation here on the frontier. We are now beginning a steam-powered journey down the rivers of America for a first-hand look at our country's growth westward from the shores of the Mississippi. To the starboard, Tom Sawyer's Island, where Tom and Huck explore Injun Joe's secret cave, visit the old grist mill, and climb to their lofty treehouse up on Indian Hill. Attention, deck watch. New Orleans Square, dead ahead. Stand by for possible heavy water traffic. Ahead is the Paris of the western frontier, the grand old city of New Orleans. Along her winding street, you can hear the sounds of Dixieland jazz.
Specs: capacity 1,560 per hour, capacity per load 390, cycle time 15 minutes 1 second, load time 3 minutes 1 second, unload time 3 minutes 1 second, trip time 13 minutes 23 seconds, dispatch interval 15 minutes 1 second, trips per hour 4, distance traveled 2,300 feet, speed 2.2 miles per hour. Here's a shot of Mark Twain's wheelhouse.